Hey, my name is Stephanie.
And I'm Chris.
And welcome to Our Story, where we have a good story for you today. It's about the two sides of business.
All right, so let's get into this because I've been waiting to talk about this one. So I've been seeing a lot of stuff on Instagram, Snapchat, and all kind of social media platforms talking about how to manage assets, and everything wants to be focused around that big almighty dollar.
Profit.
What makes the cash register ring?
Profit.
But let's get into it because there are more factors than just profit.
Sure.
There's a lot more. For example, we've been doing business for a long time, and we've learned some hard lessons. And it's strange because a lot of the lessons I've learned, I learned them working with my dad, doing business myself, but I didn't really know what they truly meant until I got the classroom, the academic knowledge behind it. Because I was going for my bachelor's and master's degree in business, it was like, oh, do this. And like, oh, I've been doing that for years.
Right.
I just didn't know that I should be managing those non-tangible assets, just like I was managing the tangible assets.
Right.
For example, a goodwill. A lot of y'all probably haven't heard of goodwill in regards to business before, but what it is when you basically take your brand and you have positivity associated with it. Like, we can all think of a brand that as soon as you see that logo, you know that that's a good company.
Right.
It stands on principles. You want to be part of that. You have companies who 100% rely on, like Google. People go work at Google just because of the brand recognition, the goodwill associated. It's a good workplace culture. There are other brands like that. And that's what you have to do in your business as well. You have to try to establish goodwill. How do your employees view your business? Because we do the same thing. We've leveraged both sides. We've seen both sides of when you mismanage goodwill,
yes,
and when you manage goodwill.
Yes.
I remember when we first got started doing business. We had a neighbor who lived right next to us, next to our rental property.
Yeah.
And they were hoarding trash on the back porch.
Yes.
And I made the unfortunate decision to cross the property line and go and have a conversation.
I remember that day.
About that trash. Now, in hindsight, I should have took that tactical pause. I should have thought, hey, what is the message I want to convey?
Right.
What is the ultimate outcome? What does success look like on the back end? But I didn't do that. When it knocked on the door, only one person was home. The wife was home. I had an unpleasant conversation like, hey, you're hoarding trash on your back porch. It's bringing the property down. It's an eyesore. My tenants don't like it. You need to get rid of that trash.
Yeah.
So a few hours later, who comes across that property line?
Her husband.
The husband. And he wants to have an unpleasant conversation.
Oh, yeah. He wasn't
because
happy.
He has some points that he wants to get across too.
Oh, yeah.
And for the entire time they lived next door, we were never able to repair that relationship, and the goodwill that we could have established with those tenants, with those neighbors, we didn't do so.
However,
now, on the flip side,
I was going to say, however, we have another story that we want to tell, and that is we had a duplex. We purchased a duplex in the beginning, and then we had neighbors on the other side of our duplex, and they were amazing. We established a wonderful relationship with those folks, and we got plenty of rewards in return. We created a great relationship. We actually did events together. We had conversations together. They looked after our property when we were gone. And then ultimately they rented for us for over a decade. So we've had examples on how it went wrong, and then we had examples on how we did it right too.
And it goes beyond that, because you may be asking, how do you do that? I remember one example with them was their oven went out. I think it was like Thanksgiving or something like that.
Right.
She had a whole spread going in the oven, and she was distraught.
Yes.
And I'm like, no worries. I walked over there, reached in my pocket, pulled out some money, like, hey, listen, I'm going to buy your Thanksgiving dinner because I know that you were looking forward to this dinner with your family.
Yeah.
And like I said, they rented for us for years.
Oh, yeah.
They called us. They still keep in contact with us to this day because they're friends, not just customers now.
Oh, yeah.
And it goes beyond that. I remember it was another property just a little while ago where a tree fell on the house.
Oh, right, yes.
And I thought back to that same incident with that neighbor who I walked across the street and ruined that relationship. I was like, hey, listen, I could call the insurance company and hold these neighbors financially accountable for their tree falling on our house.
Oh, yeah.
But I said, no, not going to do that. I'm going to walk across there. I'm going to have a conversation and say, how can we build the goodwill between the neighbors, the tenants, and the company? And I was like, I'm already going to call a tree removing company to come remove the tree that's on my side of the property line.
Right.
I'm already going to call somebody to repair the fence. How much will it cost for them to cross the property line, get the other trees down? You know, and that's what they call. They said, hey, it costs a couple of $100 extra for us to go climb up in a neighbor tree, cut the remaining limbs down that are in danger of falling. And it had multiple benefits to it. One, the property value was going to go up because I was repairing a shed that was already dilapidated.
That's right.
You know, we fixed the roof. We built the goodwill within the neighbors.
Right.
And then I ended up giving the wood away that we cut down to somebody who was walking by who was selling wood. So we built goodwill with them. And what's funny, it paid off years later because when we sold that house, the neighbors who tree from the house, they were overseeing our property while we were away.
Oh, yeah.
They were like, hey, something strange is going on in the house, but don't worry, I'm gonna go over there and I'll give you a call if you need to come out here. And as opposed to having to hire a security company to patrol, we had the neighbors on location. They washed it over, and we ended up selling the property for a profit, and we got to save that money.
Absolutely.
So goodwill is definitely an asset that you have to actively manage, just as if it was a tangible asset.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing that.
Well, no, we got more. I mean,
have more.
This video could turn into a whole
Yeah.
series, but we're gonna keep it short.
Yeah,
So
we'll
I'm gonna
keep it
share
short.
one more thing with you, and that's intellectual property and trademarks. I mean, we all do this subconsciously. I mean, we think about it. When you go on Amazon, what's the first thing you do? You hit that Prime button, right? Because you want that brand recognition. You want to know that Amazon has done their due diligence vetting that vendor.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to do the same thing with your business. You have to make sure that you have, I like to say, you've done the work necessary to be in the room where it happens.
Yes.
You've established your brand in a way to where it's recognized to the customer, to the clients, and to the suppliers. I've seen this leverage so far to where suppliers have been added into the specs for a project. So you open up the blueprints,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it says right there, you will buy from this vendor, and this is the product number that you will buy.
Yeah.
You can do that with your business as well by making sure you do the work to make yourself a
Employer of choice?
yeah, a vendor of choice, a business of choice.
Yeah.
And you can do that in multiple different ways. For example, when you're buying properties, don't buy the cheapest property because it has the highest profit margin.
Right.
Look at that property 360. Is that property something I want to add to my portfolio? If somebody I respected drove past that property, would I be proud saying, yeah, I own that one? Or would like, I ain't gonna share that I own that property. So do the work necessary to make to build your brand, so that when you slap your logo on the sign out front of your property, they say, oh, I know that business is a good business. I want to do business with them because I know they have a quality product. So I would encourage you. Now, mind you, we are not experts by
No,
any means of the way.
absolutely
We're just
not.
average people swinging for the fences.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So I would encourage you to build your brand so that you can have that to where you can slap your brand, your logo on a sign out front, and consumers and customers and clients can drive by and say, hey, that's a quality product. I know it'll be good.
Awesome. And can you just tell us what is the most important lesson you've learned when it comes to this topic?
The most important lesson I've learned is that it's not all about the profit margin. That the profit that you have to calculate goes beyond what makes the cash register ring. You have to accurately identify the tangible and the non-tangible assets associated with the deal. And if you do that, you never go wrong.
It sounds like your life's work.
Well, I wouldn't say my life work, but I definitely enjoy doing it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. We love what we do, and we're just so happy to be able to share this information with you guys. And don't forget, do something nice for someone today, and you can do it.
And don't forget, we're just ordinary people trying to do extraordinary things.
Absolutely.